Hello everybody! Today we're going to talk about Scrum. This is the second video in my series about Agile. The first one is about general understanding of Agile and about the main things and how to understand whether you are in Agile methods or not, based on some external science. If you haven't seen it, take a look at here at the top of video and under the link below. I often talk to the owners of IT companies and departments from completely different industries: games, Web3, application software. And one thing I almost always hear: we have Scrum. Talk to any director. They all have Scrum, and all of them are nuanced. Since my channel is mostly for managers for whom questions are more important than answers, I would like to share my observation and problems that await any medium or large business. A little bit about our formation of Agile. We started out by reading books about Scrum and getting acquainted with Agile methodologies. Then we hired consultants who came to our offices and conducted various training. At some point, this ended up with ICP, such certificates that we were very smart about Agile. However, there were few meaningful improvements in development in terms of value delivery. Generally speaking, when I looked at the statistics for all our project about 5 years ago, I was shocked. Very few projects were getting into production, and we still had significant beginners, but Scrum had no effect on it. It was much later than I realized that we have a Fakegile, an imitation of flexibility, and there were not enough components in tactical management. Another sobering event was in my life when I personally interviewed people at some point in the company. We were just building the funnel then, and I wanted to understand at my fingertips the outcome of the processes. And how shocked I was then to be interviewed by developers who, when it came to actual project that worked, many couldn't name a single one. People with 10 years of experience, not one. What I'm about to tell in this video, like much in our channel, is deeply personal. I'm not sure that in 2015 I would have believed that I'm recording today, but perhaps it will make sense to someone. Let me say right off the bat that there are a lot of negative things about Scrum in this video, but not because the methodology itself is bad. It's because the methodology itself is set up in such a way that it gives a huge number of variations which are usually used by charlatans. It's like grandma's cake recipe. On paper, it's nothing complicated, but you get a bad taste and your grandmother's is delicious. In this video, I will insert an increased number of links to primary sources, but don't be intimidated. They will be in the video description. For starters, a quick rundown of the Scrum we'll need in this video, link to the official guide in the description. First, Scrum is a framework for synchronizing the realized value with the product owner. The owner, who is responsible for the value of the product through tight communication and getting feedback. Second, there are no supervisor of the team. Scrum roles are horizontal and therefore compact. The team should be up to 9 people, in practice better up to 7. Our teams are usually 5-4 developers per product. If more people are needed, the overall backlog, product goals and metrics are shared between 2 equal teams, and the product owner is shared by all product teams as well. Third, ideas are converted into delivered value in equal chunks of time or sprints. They are not too small to not to have time to deliver value, and not too big to have time to do a lot of extra work. They are optimal. The optimal time is determined by the team. Fourth, sprint is a PDCA cycle, where the metric being studied is team efficiency, which is measured by some kind of score denoting the total difficulty of tasks. The team examines its efficiency and draws conclusion at the end of the sprint about how to improve the efficiency.
No, I'm afraid
Let's not rush into any hasty answers, Anderson. The task has been set and needs to be carried out. At the end of the day, you are an expert.
Scrum as an agile practice is designed for complex environments. By entangled problems, we should mean exactly those in which the product manager has no objective opportunity to provide and communicate at once the way to achieve value. That's why the whole team is involved in the value discussion. It clarifies the value together with the product manager because collective intelligence helps us better understand the implementation. This is why the product owner is not the team leader. He is an equal member of the team. Conventionally, if we play Lego, this is an example we often have at Scrum trainings. The product owner says he wants a city with park, but he doesn't have an image of the city. And the developers in Scrum, one-on-one with the product owner, have to figure out how to make it more convenient and beautiful from the product owner's point of view. For example, a developer might suggest a roundabout traffic road and a fountain in the center, an intricately shaped park because it's a better way. The developer here doesn't talk about how exactly they will combine the cubes, on technology. They are proposing a type of value together, and the product owner is competent to let the team know whether or not this will improve the value of the product. If you don't know how to practice a Scrum relates to tangled environments or complex environments or PDCA loops, I recommend my other video, the Canadian Framework video. See in the description below. Now it's important to note something that is often overlooked. When Scrum was created, developers were really in confusing environments. I remember that 25 years ago, the issue of compiling the code was not all easy. Compilers had a lot of bugs and suboptimal, not to mention outright bloopers like refusing to compile because of extra space or some kind of this stuff. There were not enough libraries, and principles like object-oriented programming, patterns, architecture, and so on were just beginning. It seems to make sense, and agile practice somehow in IT today seem to be the most popular. The number of agile specialists is off the charts. Even juniors at job interview may ask, do you have a Scrum? And with all this, we objectively see too low efficiency in IT today. All the teams claim a shortage of people, yet the current teams are huge. In order for large companies to get meaningful results, they hire hundreds or even thousands of developers and innumerable strapping to them. Now let's break down the meaning of development in medium and large businesses. I want to voice the problems that arise in large organizations. The first problem is the product manager's responsibility. The product owner is often the boss to the team in the organizational structure, but not the subordinate to the business. How does this work? When a product owner dictates what value should be done in a team without discussions, when it is easier for a product owner just to forward message from the business to a team and you figure out of there, when a product owner does not face real user problems for various organizational reasons, then he really doesn't know the exact value of the product and is just a kind of gasket between developers and business. If the product owner is there formally, but is not responsible for the effectiveness of his project in a clear way, it doesn't solve the problem and only worsen the situation. In such case, the team doesn't really understand the value of each feature, the team's priorities and constantly changing because the business has come and marked the new feature as the main one, and so on. And real dialogue is possible with only the head of the department the product is made for, but between him and the team there is a broken phone called product owner. The team would be happy to clarify the meaning of the value, but the product owner obviously doesn't know it. The key to the problem, as we see it, is that the product owner must be responsible for the same metrics that the business customer is responsible for. There must be a clear link between the metrics and the product. Unfortunately, if the product owner is inside the company, on the other hand, it is great reason for close communication. On the other hand, such a product owner, unlike service contractor, becomes non-fireable. Personally, I don't think a good idea that the product owner is not the head of the team. In that case, who would you blame for the success of the product? Because everyone would be to blame, including developers and Scrum Masters, and without a proper culture of failure, anyone will always be blamed for anyone except me. Second problem, finding the right amount of product owner, and because Scrum implies that he has a very high expertise. A product owner is someone who really understands the value. When the company has the task of recruiting product owners on industrial scale, it never ends well. Think for yourself. A product owner is a person who must have a good entrepreneurial and integrational functions, according to Adizes. See the link in the description below. He must model the future, predict the effect, and communicate well, and also have enough modeling experience to concentrate on bottlenecks and have perseverance and dare not be afraid of this word X in the order to explain value, protect value, deny excuses, push the real use of a new feature. Are there many people like that in society? I am convinced that this is piece goods. Now, let's complicate the task. You need a lot of them, and you do not promise them any real leadership position. After all, according to Scrum, the product owner is not the boss. His role is to determine their value and significance in a complex environment, but he determines that will be done only with a team. From the business point of view, the product owner is the subordinate. He has no authority over the Scrum team. It turns out that they will demand from above for someone else's product, but you have no authority, which further increases the requirements for motivation, communication, and empathy in order to understand what exactly is needed, what and how to ask the business, so that the business take it seriously. And without such a person in the Scrum team, everything else will not matter. Third problem. Separately, I want to add about an important thesis of Agile, the willingness to change rather than follow a planned plan. If the product owner is not constantly communicating with the business, which is all too often the case, the change in plans can only come to the product owner when the team has already done too much excessive value, but also defending the delivery of what is required in the work, but often not defended. All this demotivates both the team and the product owner, who do not get anything done, and the business, which stopped taking the team seriously because there is no results, only useless talks. The first problem about the Scrum Master. This is not a statistician. This is not a person who just knows procedures. He understands, deeply understand the meaning of Agile. He can explain the meaning of each procedure, facilitate conversation, and understand what the team, for example, at the stand-up discuss unnecessary things, which can help the team at retro really discuss problem and keep the team in the internal locus. So the team thinks how to change itself, not anyone outside the team. He can still check the product owner's goal if he wants to figure out the problem. Theoretically, this person is responsible for moderation, for learning and interaction in the team. But where? Here I turn to real executives to theoretically get even 5 such people. How do you hire them? How do you interview them? How do you correct them? Besides, so far back as 50 years ago in his book The Effective Leader, Peter Drucker says that individual self-deployment depends in large part on a focus of contributing to the overall result. Drucker points out that the concentration on the contributing to the overall result doesn't solve problems by itself, but certainly contributes to the understanding of communication tasks. In other words, it turns out that a very large part of the contribution to the function of the Scrum Master comes simply from a clear understanding of the goals and objectives by the intellectual workers, and the issue of communication and self-development resolve themselves. And if the team is too heterogeneous, can the Scrum Master solve these problems? No. In my opinion, having a person on the team who doesn't bring any benefit will clearly demotivate the team, and here is too little confidence that this will not happen. The fifth problem is the lack of the right developers. Despite the fact that Schreiber and Sutherland mention different domains, Scrum developers are always cross-team, so one can be replaced by another. And in doing so, we need to keep the focus on the value being delivered, not on the complex code. That said, you have to walk a fine line between standardization of libraries or approaches and freedom. After all, you have many such teams and solutions, and standards should not kill initiative and motivation. And again, keep in mind that some fancy, albeit useless, solution will look much prettier on the resume of the developer, because result-oriented is written by absolutely everyone. To find such developers, to educate them, to weed them out requires well-established HR processes and precise interaction with the developer. All of the above problems can be titled, "It is extremely difficult to hire team artists on an industrial scale rather than painters." Competency problem force business to add testers, business analysts, and technical writers. This, in its turn, not only doesn't make the situation better, but worsen it. If before the developers had at least some connection with the bearer of value, then in this structure, with QA, with business analysts, and so on, the developer does what is told to him from above and is not even responsible for bringing value to the end. This function is implicitly delegated to the QA.